welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a Q&A all about breastfeeding. First, I figured I would introduce myself for those of you who are new to my channel. My name is Lex. I have a 22-month-old son named Cooper who I breastfed for 12 months, and then I also have a daughter who is 3 weeks old. I am in no way, shape, or form an expert, and all of my answers to these questions are all based off of my own personal experience and the information that I have found, but I am human and I don't have a medical degree, so if I say something that is questionable or something that might be incorrect, I have absolutely no problem with you sharing the knowledge in the comment section below. Please, 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 the only thing that I ask is that you make sure that your information is correct before you post it in the comment section. The last thing that I would want is a first-time mom to be scrolling through the comments and to feel really confused by conflicting information. I asked everyone a little while ago to send me some questions. You guys totally did. I have them right in front of me, so let's get started. So the first question that I have is, what pump do I use? With my son Cooper, I had two different electric pumps. I had the Spectra S2, and then I also had an electric pump from Medela. I actually found these pumps to work well. However, I really disliked pumping in general with them. I felt like it was such a process to bring it out, to plug it in. I was always confined to that one spot in the house. It just made me not want to pump, to tell you the truth. So my stash of milk that I had with my son was definitely significantly less than I have with my daughter, and my daughter's only 3 weeks old. So the pumps that I've actually been using this time around, which have literally changed my postpartum experience, is the Medela Harmony, that's right here, and a Haakaa. I'm not going to get too much into this right now because there's a lot of questions on it later, so I'll go into more in depth further on into this video. But the pump that I'm actually using is the Harmony. This thing is so easy to clean. It literally just comes off in pieces, just like this. I'm able to get probably more milk from this thing than I have from my Spectra S2 or my electric Medela. This part right here, you pump to stimulate letdown, and then once your milk is starting to come out, then you can pump using this side right here. For both breasts, I would say maybe 20 minutes. It's awesome. What nipple cream do I use? I actually really weirdly have never been into nipple creams. I have used the Tubby Todd all over ointment. That is something that I use for like milia on babies' faces, any type of eczema. It's called an ointment, but it's the silkiest cream ever, and it really just heals everything. The next question was, what is the general rule for keeping parts sterile and clean? I'm gonna tell you what I do, and I've never had an issue. The second that I get any item that's breastfeeding related, I sterilize it, boiling it in water. Then from then on, I more or less hand wash them with the bottle soap. I think it's by like Dapple or something like that. And I will just hand wash them, and I will hand dry them, and that is how I keep them clean. Every maybe 2 to 3 weeks, I will then sterilize them again by boiling them as well. What advice do I have for a first-time mom who is planning on breastfeeding and doesn't know much about it? Okay, this is a big one. Brutal honesty, guys. This is my advice. Breastfeeding is the most amazing, wonderful, just loving experience. It is incredibly difficult in the beginning though. You are going to be committing a lot of your time to feeding your child. It's going to potentially cause a lot of resentment because no one else can help you do that. So if you're really, really tired, or you haven't showered, or you haven't had any alone time, or you haven't been out of the house in a while, you're very much so restricted in the beginning to feeding your child. Your child comes absolutely first, but you literally cannot hand your child to your husband or your mother or your family or anyone to do this for you. And if your child is cluster feeding, which they absolutely will do from time to time, you have to be available every 15 minutes to feed that baby. It's very time consuming in the beginning, and you're dedicating a lot of your time to it, and I don't really think that a lot of first-time moms really realize that. I sure didn't realize that, and it definitely, when you're going through all these like postpartum changes and hormones and stuff, you might feel a little claustrophobic, and you might feel like, oh my gosh, I just put the baby down, I'm so tired, I just want to sleep for longer than like an hour. He or she is crying again and they want to be fed again. So just go into it knowing that the chances are it's going to happen so that you're better prepared for it. The second that you give birth to that baby, you're going to start to feed it. And you have to understand that you are so brand new to breastfeeding. You've never done it before. But your baby is so brand new to breastfeeding and they haven't done it before either. And while you both have these natural instincts and you both kind of are just built with the ability to breastfeed, you probably stink at it, both of you. So your baby is not gonna latch well. You aren't gonna know what to do. You're gonna get overwhelmed and frustrated and you're gonna have anxiety, but you can get through it. And know that every other person has also had a rocky experience before you. You're in the hospital and you're really, really tired and it's like that second day and you're holding your breast and you're trying to get them to latch properly and your nipples really, really hurt and you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. You can do it. Be patient. Breathe. You're a mom. You are a tough cookie. You just pushed a baby out of your hoo-ha. You can do this. You can breastfeed. Be confident in your body. That would be also another thing that I would tell first-time moms. Be confident in your body, be confident in yourself, and have patience. How am I dealing with sore nipples? To tell you the truth, I just suck it up and deal. There's no other way for me to tell you. My nipples don't look good. They're like, they get cracked and they bleed and they have like blood blisters and it's just like so bad. It just gets so bad in the beginning and they hurt. And every time I would put, you know, Cooper or Willa onto my breast and they would latch and I would have letdown, it would sting and I would grit my teeth like this and be like, oh. But it goes away. And before you know it, it's no big deal. You just pop them on your boob and go about your business and it doesn't hurt at all. And let me tell you that breastfeeding is very difficult in the beginning, but fast forward to when you've kind of gotten over those first initial hiccups of breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is the easiest, simplest way to feed your child. Like, so people don't even want to give regular food at 6 months because they're like, breastfeeding is just so easy to do. Instead of cleaning bottles and mixing formula and paying for the formula and all of that stuff, you then can just pop them on your boob. Someone asked if I supplement with formula and I don't. I have expressed milk that I have put away in the fridge and the freezer, and that's what I use when you see Willa taking bottles. Someone said, how do I feel about nipple shields and breastfeeding? It's funny that you asked because the first 6 weeks of me feeding Cooper, I actually had to use a breast shield on my right breast. For some reason, this nipple just wasn't as pronounced as my other one. They look the same, but for some reason when he would go to latch, it wouldn't like pull out. I don't know. Then I had to use a nipple shield, and a nipple shield is a beautiful thing when you're having trouble breastfeeding and you have inverted nipples or your nipples just hurt so badly that you just don't think you can take it anymore, and then a nipple shield comes along. It's like heaven. But they do actually get really annoying to use after a while. The baby ends up getting more efficient around 6 weeks anyway, and more or less you're able to stop using it, and that's exactly what happened with me. And now with this baby, with Willa, I haven't used a nipple shield at all. I think my nipples are just so used to breastfeeding from doing it for a year that I just didn't have any issues with that. But nipple shields are amazing. They exist for all of you moms out there who have no idea what I'm talking about, and they latch onto that instead, so it kind of gives your nipple a break, but they're still getting the milk and they're still feeding from your breast. So look into those if you're having any issues with breastfeeding. They definitely help. How do you know if they're getting enough milk? First, I can feel the milk in my breast, so I know that I have milk in there. Second, when letdown is stimulated, I can feel it. I can feel letdown. So I know that they're pulling milk out of my breast and getting something. Another thing is you can see their jaw moving, almost like a gulp, and you can see sort of like a movement when they gulp. You can kind of see them gulping on the side. So when they're feeding, look at the side right here and you'll see that they're gulping. After that, you kind of just have to rely on the baby's weight and how they are doing weight-wise, speaking to your pediatrician. Now to go back to my pumping schedule, how I use the Haakaa, all of that stuff. All right, let's try to make this as short as possible. So using the Haakaa, what you're basically doing is you're catching your letdown on the opposite breast. So if I had my baby breastfeeding on this breast right here, then I would then take my Haakaa and I would squeeze it like this, and I would attach it to my other breast. My boobs are down here because, you know, breastfeeding for a year and all, they're like, but you can kind of get what I'm saying. So then you would hold it like this and you would suction it and let it just sit there really strangely while you are feeding on this side. So I'm not actually pumping, I'm not doing anything with this, I'm just letting it kind of attach to my breast and just kind of hang there. And when the baby starts to feed on this side, they stimulate letdown. They suck on your nipple and it causes the milk to come through and creates a flow of milk. With the suction of this on your breast, your body is tricked into thinking, oh, there's two babies feeding on both breasts, and milk starts to also flow into this cup, and the suction keeps it going like a baby would be continuously sucking and drinking from your breast. And this will pick up some milk. I sometimes get, you know, 1/2 ounce, and sometimes I've gotten 2.5 ounces. I've gotten this much milk. With Cooper, I waited until 5 weeks to give him a bottle, and he refused bottles, and it made for such a difficult experience. I felt I had a really difficult, like, postpartum anxiety, intense baby blues experience. I think I didn't have postpartum depression, but I was just so taken back by the changes that were happening to my body, and I had gained so much weight during that pregnancy. I just didn't feel like myself, and he wouldn't take a bottle. I was constantly breastfeeding him. He had a really bad lip tie that I was unaware of, and he just wouldn't take a bottle. And then I found the Comotomo Bottles, which I absolutely love and have used with Willa, and he finally took a bottle, and that was amazing. But I knew that with this baby I wanted to do it a little bit differently, or at least try. So the day that we got home from the hospital, I had used this, I caught a few ounces of milk, I put it right into a bottle, I gave it to Dan, and she took a bottle, and she has taken a bottle almost every day since, but I breastfeed her majority of the time, and that is exactly what has worked for me. It is such an amazing feeling for me personally to be able to go outside with Cooper and not have to worry about leaving what I'm doing with him and choosing her over him because nobody else can feed her. I love the bond that Dan has now with Willa that he didn't really have in the beginning with Cooper. He also feels more confident as a father because he knows that he doesn't have to rely on me to feed her, that if she gets hungry, all he has to do is go into the fridge, pour some milk into a bottle, and he can completely take care of her on her own and not need me for anything. So it has really, really worked for our family. There has been no nipple confusion. I hear that that's a thing, but I also kind of read a lot that people who wait, their babies won't take bottles. I wonder if, you know, 10 years from now or 20 years from now, it's actually going to be recommended to give a bottle right away to avoid nipple confusion. So I don't really know. I don't know what to tell you. Please do your own research because I'm really contradicting the majority of information that's out there, and I would hate for you to go off of something that I said just from my one personal experience, and then, you know, your baby does have nipple confusion. So please, please, please do research. This is just my experience. As far as my pumping schedule, I always want to have milk available in one breast for my child. I don't want to ever have to pump both my breasts and then be like, oh no, she's hungry right now, I need to pull out a bottle instead of breastfeeding her. I breastfeed, I'll do one breast each feed. It's just always the way I've breastfed. I did it with Cooper too, and it always seemed to work out. So I feed her from one breast. I'll take the Hakka and I'll put it on this boob, right? Then when she is done feeding from this breast and she's done feeding, I will have some foremilk in here, and then I will take this pump and then I will pump the same breast that she ate from, and I will pump, 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 see what else I can get out. And then I have hind milk here. Hind milk and foremilk are the exact same thing. It's breast milk, but your hind milk has a lot more fat in it than your foremilk does. The new breast milk is not as fatty, and then as time goes on and it creates more and more, the milk that it had just created gets fattier and fattier and fattier. So you want your baby to get the foremilk, but you also definitely want them to get all the way to that hind milk. And with the Hakka, you kind of run into that weird issue where you're always taking your foremilk. And that's okay because your body would be giving the baby Hind milk, which is the fattiest milk. But if you go and you put this away in the fridge, that feeding that you use this milk for isn't going to be that fatty of milk. And then if you run into the issue where all your milk in your fridge is just for milk, and then you stop breastfeeding and just use up that frozen milk, you aren't giving your baby the nutrition that it was getting while you're breastfeeding. So important to kind of pay attention to fore milk and hind milk. It's not that important, but when you're storing milk away, you definitely want to make sure you're getting a combination of both milks. And by me pumping afterwards, that is allowing me to do that. So I would be getting really, really fatty milk in here. I'd be getting fore milk in here. I would combine them into one bag, and I have myself a nice mix of both. When you are within like a 4 to 6 week period, those beginning 4 to 6 weeks, your body is regulating your milk hormonally, and also your baby is regulating it. So what I like to do is not get too crazy about it, but a couple times throughout the day I will pump after she has fed, and it really empties my breasts, and I'm able to tell my breast to create more milk while also putting milk away in the fridge. And by doing that, my body is like, oh no, I have to make more milk. So I really rev up my supply, because I don't mind pumping with this. It's so easy, and I love knowing that I have milk stored away in the fridge. Something that I should have mentioned before, I think I was about to, and like, this is so important. This is the most important thing that I could possibly tell you guys. When your baby is having a really difficult time latching, it is probably not your body. It probably has nothing to do with your nipples. Chances are your child has a lip tie or a tongue tie. If you haven't heard of these before, research lip ties and tongue ties. Here's the issue with lip ties and tongue ties. They are a thing. They exist. I have experienced it firsthand. Lip ties and tongue ties exist. Majority of pediatricians, they do not read up on new findings, and I just don't understand how that's possible. But how many times have you guys run into things where they, baby-led weaning, all of these new findings that are out there right now, pediatricians are just like, no, I didn't learn it in medical school, so therefore it does not exist. There was a time where measles was not a thing. These things are eventually studied enough to become real issues, and now we look at them as, of course there's heart disease, of course there's this type of cancer. But at one point or another, people didn't believe that it existed. And that is exactly what's happening with lip ties, tongue ties. If you want to know what I'm talking about, stick your tongue in between your teeth and your lip. Do you feel that little string that's attaching your lip to your gums? That right there, I actually have a tongue tie. That right there is a tongue tie. On some babies are too far downward or too far forward, and it causes the baby to not be able to, the lip tie causes the baby not to be able to flange their lip, not being able to really get a good grip on the breast. It makes them tired while they're eating, it makes your nipples hurt, and it really just causes havoc when you're trying to breastfeed. Same thing with a tongue tie as well. You then want to go to a preferred provider. There is a lip tie and tongue tie support group on Facebook that you should join. I think it's the one that has the most followers. They have a document on there with all of the preferred providers all over the world, all of the people you should go to really get quality care for your baby's lip tie or tongue tie. And you'll find someone in your area, and you go to them, and they will tell you whether they have one or not. They will tell you how they're going to go and revise it and all of that. Someone had asked how long you are engorged for and how do you kind of combat it. The engorgement period is really tough. You feel like you have 2 rocks on your chest. It is uncomfortable. It feels really strange. I will feed my baby as much as they want to eat. I will take my pump and I will just pump a little bit until I feel a little bit of relief. I won't empty them, but I will just kind of pump them a little bit, and that seems to work for me. But really, you guys just have to be patient, and you just kind of have to wait it out. it's a tough period. Another question was, how do I know when to pump so that I don't take away from the next feed? So that's actually why I only feed, especially in the beginning, from one breast, is because I know I will always have this other breast, and then I pump after she's done eating, which you always can get more out of your breast. A lot of people also ask me too, how do I have such a stash, and like how do I keep my milk up so much and have so much? It's really because I get to that engorgement period and then I just kind of try to not lose all of it. I try to let my body regulate to where I would need to pump every day. So I try to pretend like my child is feeding about 2 times more than they actually do so that I can pump that milk and store it away in the fridge. But guys, this video is super long, but I hope that it was informative. Thank you so much for watching. If you are new to our channel, please subscribe. We'd love to have you come along. And if you have any other questions for me, please don't hesitate to comment down below. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye!